I took in my homeless older sister, but she started trying to hit on my boyfriend. I wanted to kick her out, but she manipulated me into letting her stay, then did something unforgivable. I took in my homeless older sister 6 months ago, and as soon as she moved in, she started hitting on my boyfriend. I was always insecure about my hip dips, so when she'd see me in leggings or something tight, she'd ask my boyfriend if he ever noticed my hip dips, and would also ask me if I wanted to work out with her to improve my figure for him. When she saw that she got no reaction from him, she started lounging around in short shorts, and sometimes even bikinis if he was around, and I confronted her. Right after she finished talking about how she blew this guy's mind one time, I told her to stop it. She played dumb, but I interrupted her, saying she knows what she's doing and it's making both my boyfriend and I uncomfortable. I don't want my home to be a warehouse, so she better cut it out. She once again said she doesn't know what I'm on about, and that if bikinis make me uncomfortable, then I must be insecure or something. Because why would she go for the boyfriend of her sister who helped her out when no one else would? I thought about it, and her point made sense to me. Why would she do that? I dropped the topic. A few days passed, and she is still wearing skimpy clothes around the house. One day when she knew my boyfriend Matt was working from home, she threw on a bikini as an outfit. We didn't own a pool. She lounged around the house all day, trying to show off her body. She would bend over in weird positions to get things out of the fridge. Then she started vacuuming and cleaning up the living room where Matt was working. She brushed past him a few times, claiming she was trying to clean, then apologizing with a wink. I knew all of this because Matt told me when I got home. That night, I saw her take off her bikini and throw on an oversized shirt to go to bed. I knew then that she wasn't wearing those clothes for comfort like she had claimed before. I didn't want to start an argument with her, so I left it alone. As the weeks progressed, Savannah got worse. She decided that she would start doing yoga, but only when she saw Matt was home. She would put on the most revealing tight romper and head to the living room. While Matt was watching TV, she would lay her mat next to the coffee table in his line of sight and begin doing downward dog away from him. When I got home, she would shower and come out of the bathroom to the laundry room in only a bathrobe, constantly claiming that she forgot to replace the toilet paper or something else that would normally be under the sink. She made sure to ask Matt for help reaching things while she was in the laundry room because she swore she was too short to reach the top shelf. One night, while me and Matt were having a movie night in the living room, Savannah walked in wearing an extravagant silk robe and asked what we were doing, and we told her just watching a movie before bed. Savannah insisted that she join and jumped on the couch right next to Matt. There was more sitting space where I was, and when I asked her if she would rather sit next to me, she refused, saying she was much more comfortable on that side of the couch. She was practically sitting in Matt's lap and told him to feel how soft her pajamas were, and when Matt tried to scoot over, she only got closer. He gave a nervous smile, and my blood was boiling. My sister was definitely fiending for Matt, and I planned to talk to her one-on-one about it the next day because I wanted to enjoy this night with Matt. The next day, I was rehearsing what I was going to say to her. I was driving home from work, and Matt called me. He told me that while I was at work, Savannah came out of the bathroom dripping wet and wearing a bikini, and asked him to stop working to look at her. She asked him if he could tell that the Pilates were paying off. I drove faster home. My entire body felt hot with rage. When me and Savannah were teenagers, she would always flirt or seem interested in my boyfriends even if she already had her own. She would often follow them on social media and text them asking to hang out without me. This made me uncomfortable, but it never really went past that, so I never counted it as cheating. I just saw it as weird behavior. One night, she said she was going out with a guy that she met on Instagram, and I asked her if it was the boyfriend that she brought home to mom and dad. She said it was a hotter guy that she was meeting up with and that they were going to the movies together. Later, I found out it was my crush at the time, and it was no hiding it. Everyone knew I was interested in him except for him. So when I confronted her about hanging out with my crush, she said she never knew I was interested in him, and that I could still go for him. She then told me that they already hooked up. My 15-year-old heart was shattered. She was 17 at the time, and my crush was in my grade. Now that we are older, it feels like the same patterns were reoccurring in this relationship. I knew I could trust Matt, but my sister, on the other hand, I could not. I arrived home and stormed through the door. I called for Savannah, and she came to the living room with that same innocent look she always had. I demanded an explanation, but she acted like she didn't know what I was talking about. I told her that Matt told me about her coming out of the bathroom practically unclothed and trying to tempt him into looking at her. She said it was a misunderstanding and that she was just proud of her gains. I said that if that was the case, then she wouldn't be flirting with Matt constantly and wearing no clothes around him. She said that she never meant to come between them and kept apologizing. I told her she had to leave immediately. I was over it. I wanted her out of our house. I said she was always like this ever since we were younger. She started crying and begging to stay. She apologized for everything and said that she would do anything to stay. She said that she didn't have anywhere else to go. I began to feel bad about how I went off on her. I really was the only person left in her life. Both of our parents stopped talking to her after she turned 18, so she couldn't go back to their house. She said she would promise to do better and that this would never happen again. Her face looked sincere, but deep down, I felt like she wasn't. But she had nowhere to go. I felt I was cornered. I agreed that she could stay under the condition that she would stop wearing bikinis in the house and keep some distance between her and Matt. She quickly agreed and thanked me over and over. She ran up to me and hugged me tightly. I agreed that she could stay, but I knew the trust between us was gone. Things went well for the next few weeks. Savannah kept her distance from Matt. She started coming out of her room, fully clothed. I started feeling relieved, and I felt our relationship was going great. I still did not fully trust her and knew I probably never would again, but I finally felt safe in my own home while she was around. One day I overheard her while passing by her bedroom door. She was on the phone with one of her friends and said that Matt was so fine, and that when she was finally getting close to him, I threatened to kick her out. I couldn't believe what she was saying, and I didn't want her to feel like I was eavesdropping. I left it alone, and Savannah began wearing skimpy clothes again, slowly but surely. One day she pulled her usual laundry room trick and was walking around in a towel until she saw Matt, and asked him for help reaching for something yet again. After he passed it to her, she dropped her towel right in front of him. She scurried to pick it up and fell onto him. He instantly called for me and left the room to tell me what happened. When I got in the room, she apologized and said it was a complete accident and meant no harm in it. I was furious and told her to quit acting like a whore. She started crying again, saying that she didn't mean to drop her towel and only wanted hand soap. I stormed out of the room because if I stayed a second longer, that would have been the end of Savannah. Matt came into our room to calm me down, and I was reminded of how grateful I was for him. He said he was sorry for what I was going through with my sister, and said he knew how torn I must feel about her being there. He reassured me that he didn't want anyone else but me, and that I didn't have to worry about him falling for her games. That conversation with him made me feel a little bit better about the situation, but I knew I needed a plan to get Savannah out of my house quickly. That night, I asked Matt to go get me some water, and when I realized he was gone for a longer time than I expected, I got out of bed to go see what was taking so long. To no surprise, Savannah was in the kitchen making a late-night snack, wearing lingerie, and trying to talk to Matt. I could see on his face he was uncomfortable, and when I walked in, she tried to cover herself up and asked me if I wanted a PB&J. I told her no, and dragged Matt back to the bedroom. He said thanks for getting him out of that situation. He said he didn't want to be rude, but she just kept trying to keep up a conversation. I said I didn't blame him for trying to be cordial, and we went to bed. The next week while I was at work, I got a call from Matt. He said Savannah pulled the same stunt as before and dropped her towel again, except this time she bent down right in front of Matt to pick it up. She then joked that since he had seen her naked, it'd only be fair if he returned the favor. I was ticked off. I told him that I was on the way. I told my boss that I had to leave for a family emergency, and she said she understood. I drove home, flying like a bat out of hell. I could feel my blood pressure rising. I couldn't believe she would cry crocodile tears just to try to steal my boyfriend again. I regretted letting her in my house, and this was the last straw. As I was driving home, I got another call from Matt. I heard Savannah on the other end begging him not to tell me and crying. If she thought that act would work again, she had another thing coming. I told him that I was in the driveway and that she needed to pack up her stuff now. She was hollering and accusing Matt of wanting her. I hung up the phone and stormed inside. The first thing she said was Matt was lying to me and that he talked about leaving me for her, but I trusted Matt. I told her to get out of my house immediately. I knew her true intentions now. She hadn't changed since we were teenagers. She again begged to stay and tried to guilt-trip me again since she had nowhere to go, but that wasn't my problem anymore. Her being there was detrimental to my mental health and my relationship with Matt. I said she crossed the line for the last time. She sat on the floor crying, and I threatened to call the police if she didn't leave that instant. She got up and ran to what was her room, screaming and crying. She spent the next hour gathering her things. The next morning she was out of our house, and I felt a relief that I hadn't felt for months. No. Me and Matt were finally the only ones in our house now, and I no longer had to worry about that snake Savannah. Life went back to normal. I was working, Matt was working. We enjoyed dates with each other, alone. Then 2 weeks later, Savannah called me from no caller ID, asking for another chance and apologized for everything she'd done. She said that she's changed and wants to fix the relationship between us. I said that our relationship would never go back to how it was before, and when she noticed this wasn't working on me, she started talking about how she had to move to a shelter and couldn't find a job. I told her that that was the decision she made and told her to never call me again. She screamed, "Wait, what?" I said, not wanting to speak any longer. Then she talked about how she hadn't eaten in days and said that I didn't understand her. She said I always had everything handed to me. I always had hot boyfriends, and mom and dad always favored me because I had better grades. She said that I was the golden child and that life wasn't fair for her. Then told me to look at how she was living and then look at how I was living. She said that she was the older sister who didn't have a car, a home, or money to eat, and asked if I would be selfish enough to take away the last person close to her. I sat silent on the phone, and she demanded I say something to her. I said not to call my phone again and hung up.